And it sounds like a couple other people are having a little bit of issues. So if you're able to log back on, great. If not, we understand. So yeah, if you could share your, if you want to share your name, and then your favorite snack, and then something you enjoy about STL Youth Jobs, that would be great. So we can get to know you a little bit better.
Okay, my name is Johnny Lattimore. Sorry, my camera not on. I'm having bad hair day right now. So, but my name is Johnny Lattimore. I'm 23. My favorite snack, I don't eat candy, but chips. I mean, you can say hot fries or whatever hot chips I got, I guess. I don't know. And what I like about STLU's job, they have caring people there, people who willing to help you go out their ways just to help you get to where you need to go.
Love it. Thank you. Anybody else?
My name is Kalia, and my favorite snack is any like chips because I really don't like candy. And one thing I like about STL jobs is you learn things that you need further on in life.
Awesome. Love it. Mary Jean, do you want to share something?
My name is Mary Jean. My favorite chips are Funyuns. I'm 19. What I like about STL youth jobs is the variety of jobs.
Yes, thanks for sharing. I'll go next. I'm Amanda. I'm the Partnerships and Impact Manager at STL Youth Jobs. Prior to this, I was a job coach. So some of you may remember me from the Young Money Manager sessions that were last summer. I was the job coach for the Young Money Managers. One reason I love STL Youth Jobs is the how supportive they are, not only of the job coaches, or not only of the youth, but also the job coaches.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Seda. I am a master's student in social work at UMSL, and I am doing my foundation practicum at STL Youth Jobs. I really, really love it here. I'm learning a lot. This is my second career. So I'm so happy to be a student again and a learner. I'm a lifelong learner. On the side, I love nuts. So my favorite snack is any type of nuts, and thankfully I'm not allergic to it.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Elizabeth, if you want to introduce yourself and share your favorite snack, that'd be great.
Well, thank you all for sharing. I'm Elizabeth, and I am a CPA with Farmer and Associates, and I like a lot of different. I like candy. I am in a group full of people who like chips, but I would choose candy, and I like chocolate, but I also like Sour Patch Kids, which is a treat that I only allow myself when I'm going on a long car trip. Anyway, I think it's always fun to open up and talk about just random things to kind of get the blood flowing, get our brain flowing, kind of get some connection going. We're going to talk today about taxes and actually how your W-2 relates to a tax form. And I will acknowledge that a lot of people don't prepare their own taxes. There are taxpayer assistance places, which I don't know if they're as functional as they were pre-COVID, but like people at the university, people go to the library and they will help people file their taxes. I will tell you, the IRS very much prefers that you submit your tax returns electronically because they're overwhelmed in mail right now. And so I don't know if those places do electronic filing for you, but if they don't, what I'm going to show you today is ways for you to be able to electronically file your own returns for free. And I'm going to acknowledge that we can't actually prepare a tax return and submit it because, well, you can't do that. You have to have real tax return to file. But I'm going to do my very best to kind of replicate the process that you would go through and how everything on your W-2 relates to the tax forms themselves, and also the language of a tax return which I think is a very important thing to understand. If any of you guys have been through math classes, you know, sometimes the hardest thing about math is getting that language. What the heck are they talking about when they're talking about the divisor or whatever one of these terms are that are specific to math? Sometimes I have to look them up when I'm helping my kids with their math classes. But in any case, I'm going to dive in and begin to share screens and talk through a very complicated matter, which shouldn't be so, because we all, as people who live in the United States and pay taxes, need to be able to understand our taxes. Okay, the first thing I'm going to share in my screen is actually these are Excel files. It's a maybe you guys are familiar with this in high school, but basically it's something that helps make math a little bit easier, and it's a big part of my profession. I work in Excel all the time, so I'm comfortable with it. And since I'm teaching, I wanted to use something that I was going to be a little bit comfortable with. So the basic format of a tax return that we're going to look at is income, less adjustments, less deductions. I left a line out of here, equals taxable income. And then you have a calculation where you come down to tax. And if you've paid in tax, you have withholding. And there are also is such a thing as refundable credits. I'm not going to go into the very big details of these things, of the refundable credits today, because that would be a class in and of itself. But if you have a child, there are refundable credits that are going to be available to you where you will get money back that you didn't even actually pay in. Okay. So the first thing I want to, I see a hand up. Should I answer?
Oh, you told me. I had
Yes.
a question for her at the bottom. I can't pronounce her name, but I had a question for her. She said that she had worked at, and she go to answer. I could ask her at the end of the session.
Okay. All right. That's great. Okay. So I have opened up a screen that I found over the web that basically shows what's going to happen next year with the standard deduction. We're going to pretend it's 2022, even though it is currently 2021. So if you guys remember, I kind of got into deductions yesterday. That's what this particular table is about. And I'm just going to fill that in over here before we begin. Everyone would get just, it's basically like you can make that amount of money without paying any tax at all, because if you made $12,950 in income, you would end up with zero taxable income, because you're taking this less your adjustments, less your deductions to get to your taxable income. Okay. Now I'm going to switch to the other screen to hopefully be able to interrelate how the W-2. Can you guys see a screen that has the city St. Louis individual earnings tax? Perfect. Okay. So yesterday we got into how the forms that you fill out for your withholding are going to dictate to your employer what they need to withhold in taxes in order for you to have enough paid in when it comes time to file your taxes. So I took our W-2 from last time and I just put in $5,000 in wages for the year. Let's assume that you were able to make $5,000 in the jobs that you had through STL youth jobs by the end of 2022. And that your employer had withheld $49 in federal tax. And if you recall, I told you guys these Social Security and Medicare amounts, you can't get that back. It's flat percentages, 6.2% Social Security and 1.45% Medicare. And then down here is where we have so this information right here is coming from that W-4 form that we walked through and filled out yesterday together that we talked about. It's not wanting me to, hang on, I'm trying to do the wrong thing here. So we filled out this form. And even though this form says exempt, in my example, I wanted to have some taxes in my federal withholding so that I'd be able to show you something and not just zeros. If you say exempt, your W-2 is actually going to show 0 in this column and 0 right here. Okay. But I want to be able to carry some things over to my example. Your Missouri W-4, we worked together and filled that out and saw that we would be able to say that we were exempt. As a student, you probably are. And those two things are feeding in to what is actually occurring on this W-2. That's why we started there at our foundational building blocks. Okay, at the end of the year, in January, you're going to receive this W-2 in the mail, or perhaps via email, but probably the mail as well. And your name and address are going to be on this, and your employer's name is going to be on this form. And you might be thinking to yourself, okay, what do I do? Do I have to file taxes? How will I know if I have to file taxes? Should I file even if I'm not necessarily required to file? Because I sort of brought that up yesterday, that you might want to file even if your income is below the level where you are required to file. There are filing requirements, and if you don't have a certain amount of income, you would not be required to file. This particular W-2 is below that income. You would not be required to file. Let's look together at how we would discover that. Right now, we can really only look at 2021. I was hoping to make this super easy so that anybody at all could see what this is going to be here. Let's look at the H&R Block link. Okay, the minimum income amount depends on your filing status. And I talked about statuses and how if you're unmarried, you're either going to be single or head of household. So you have to make more than $12,550 to be required to file a tax return. However, let's go back to our W-2. We didn't make $12,550, so we're not required to file. And the reason that number is significant is because I showed you on this form that it says 550 and I used the 2022 numbers. Anyway, that's what I'm telling you, that things change a little bit. Let's pretend we're going to use last year's so that I'm not trying to mix tax years on you guys as your beginners. So you're going to be able to deduct everything in your standard deduction, so you're not going to have to pay any income tax. Well, guess what? You paid income tax because we have $49 in your federal income tax withheld box. You read your W-2, you could know that you're going to at least get that money back. And the same is true of the state of Missouri. So when you file, if you have zeros in here and you're under the $12,550, you don't have to file a return at all. But you would be able to get your money back if you go through the process of filing. And so in a way, what I want to do is express to you that if you properly fill out these forms and you're actually exempt, then you're actually making your life easier, because you're instructing your employer in advance, don't withhold taxes for me. I'm not going to owe anything. And therefore, you won't be in a position where you have to file a return in order to get your money back. You'll get it in your check every week when you get paid, instead of it being withheld up here. Okay. All right, I do want to talk about this, the forms themselves and how we discover how we would be able to file. So give me one moment here to collect I think it's in Google Chrome that I need to be. Okay, so I'm going to put these two links out. We'll start with the free form for federal. I will put it on, I don't know, hang on a minute, guys. I've got to try to get myself back here to where I can find. Which screen the chat is on. Sorry, Amanda, it's here, right? How?
You should see that Zoom icon on the bottom bar
Okay.
to the right. Yep. And that should hopefully pull it up.
When I went to meeting controls, I'm just not seeing it. I don't see where
Huh.
the chat is. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. If you go to like, if you move your cursor on the bottom, as far down at the bottom as you can, it might pull up the Zoom bar with all the Zoom icons. Does that do that for you? Did it? Because it did it for me. It's weird.
I mean, I don't even see my share screen. I'm going to say stop share for a second, and then I can see
Okay.
it so that I can actually be able to chat. So.
Perfect.
Huh. Which is Control H. Try to remember that. Okay, here's our first screen where it talks about the IRS free file e-file providers and e-file fillable forms. While I'm here, I'm actually going to also grab the Missouri link as well that talks about the vendors that provide the opportunity for free filing. I do want to let you know that free filing is basically an income-based thing, meaning that if your income exceeds a certain amount, they're going to charge you for filing. It's just something that is available for you to at least test and see if you would be able to file free rather than having to pay somebody to help you to electronically submit your tax return. All right, so there's our two links. I wonder if I practice Control H. No, that just keeps it open. Okay. Move that over. All right, so in the federal free file area, each of these links will explain to you how to file forms, what you can do, where you fill out information. I'm going to see what happens when I click on this. Oh, I should go back to that. I want to go back. See how this says all account information is purged after October 20th each year? Having copies of your tax returns is an important thing to be aware of as you go into adult life. Technically, you're supposed to keep them all for your whole entire life. Realistically, people don't actually do that, but you should at least have 3 years of tax returns. You could need those for things in your life like applying for loans, trying to get a house. There might be other reasons why you might need this information. And plus, again, it's like all the rest of the things I've talked to you guys about. You need to keep your privileged information in a safe place where other people can't get into it. Only basic calculations are performed. And we must perform the calculations for ourselves. So it is a little bit challenging to fill these forms out. And I'm not going to be able to do this because I can't. I don't want to put my email address in there. This is a form that is not electronic. It's based on the information that's going to go in to the electronic submission. And in line 1 is where your wages would go. So from your W-2, it would be $5,000 that we would put in here. If you don't have any other income, you're going to come down to total income right here. of 5,000. Now, back to my screen over here. There is something called adjustments. These adjustments are dictated by tax law, and the most common adjustments that I see doing tax returns are people contributing to retirement. There are times when that appears as an adjustment. And also people who are teachers get to take a small deduction for the supplies that they bring into the classroom. So those are minused, and that would be on this line right here. And it tells you on here that you would need to go to Schedule 1 for what those adjustments are. And the forms and all of the instructions for every form are available for free on irs.gov. And you might need to read to know whether or not you have anything else to put on your return. But in my simple example, we aren't going to have any adjustments. We're just going to go straight to what our income is. And then here is the standard deduction, $12,550 from over here if you're single. And 12C says add lines 12A and 12B. This year, one of the things that is interesting about my job and challenging is that every year is kind of exceptional. It's just its own little year with its own little specific things that are allowed in that tax year. And for a couple of years, because of COVID, the government has written in that even if you don't itemize your deduction, you can, if you give cash to charity, you can actually deduct it on page 1 up to $500. So that's what this line is for. Now we add those two together, assuming, let's pretend we gave $100 to, or $10 to STL youth jobs, okay, from our 5,000. So now this number is 12,560. Skip that line, and our taxable income, subtract 14, line 14, which is add lines 12 and 13. I put that on the wrong line. And line 15 said subtract line 14 from 11. If 0 or less, enter 0. Well, 5,000 less 12,000, we're going to enter 0. All right. And then when we go to the next page, we would have to look to see what our tax is going to be. Now, I wanted to show you. See if I could just pull this. This is the one I want over here. So this is a summary of the tax brackets and how they work. I just wanted to kind of give you guys a little background on that. If you, even though this says 0, it says 0 to 10,275, that number that they're talking about on this bracket is taxable income. It's not this income up here. In our example, this was $5,000. It's not this income where you're paying 10%. It's whatever you make less your deduction is where you're looking at the fact that you would pay 10% on the first $10,000. And I'm just passionate about this and kind of geeky about it. Just so that there's an understanding in your own mind that there's a certain amount of money that you can make without paying any income tax. You're going to just pay FICA and Medicare. Okay. The other component, what's going to happen if we go back to our form, is we're going to have withholding from our W-2 over here. And let's just look at it to make sure I get the right number. Our federal income tax withheld is $49. That's going to go in here. And because we have no tax and we've paid in $49, we're going to get a refund of $49. This line right here is where the earned income credit gets calculated. It is a refundable credit, and it is a credit that is based upon a table where if you are out earning money and you have a dependent, at least for the past, that's the way it's been. Mostly if you have a dependent, your age requirement isn't as critical. If you don't have a dependent, after you reach a certain age, you can still get this credit. But I really can't completely go into what it is, except to say that there is an instruction inside the instruction form for the 1040 that explains to you how to calculate this credit. And if you had a number on this line, you would get that money back along with your $49. Then we have other credits that are listed here. The COVID money that people received, if they didn't receive their recovery rebate and they were entitled to it, this is where that would go in, and that's how they would get their money, is through filing their tax return to get that back. And also a refundable child credit. Right now, that amount is $1,000 per child. It just changes based on the year. 1002. So we've transferred the number for our federal, and we're at least getting $49 back if we were to prepare that. If we were to file them, if we were to complete the Missouri tax return as well, we would find that we could get a refund of $10. And there are not refundable credits in the state of Missouri's return. I want to look at the city of St. Louis, because I have mentioned that if you live in the city, you're required to pay 1% of everything you earn. The form that the city wants you to turn in is this individual, this E1, and on here is where you would list each of your W-2s. And we only have one, so we're going to put it in here. And this one, take 1% of your net, and that's if you paid it in. Okay, so in our case, on our W-2, we have withholding for $50. So earning tax withheld on this line would say $50, and we would come up with no balance due. So we would just simply send this in with a copy of our W-2, and that would be the end of it. But let's say that our employer did not withhold the money for us. Then we would need to be able to be ready to pay $50 with the filing of the form. Now, I have just downloaded a tremendous amount on you guys. People with college degrees who are trying to do my professional work take a long time to learn what I'm trying to teach you. So I do want to ask if there are any questions.
How did you calculate the 1%?
We took 5,000 times 0.01. It's $50, right? So 1% of line 4. And even the most sophisticated tax preparers regularly read the forms exactly the way that I was doing this, where we go subtract line 3 from line 2. Like, that's part of it. And for me, I get this kind of rush when I do that. Like, yes, I can do that. I can subtract line going through your mind, you can know what to do. That's the next thing. So you can have fun when you're preparing your taxes.
If we withhold more than we need to pay in taxes, is that the tax refund?
Yes.
Okay.
That's part of the refund. And then I talked about the refundable credits that can increase your refund. Now, if you are the dependent of another person, you still get to take that standard deduction for the amount of money that you like to offset your earned income. You still get to offset your earned income, even if you are, and the world is a different, I don't know if our law is going to stay the same. It used to be for all of my practicing time that we had a difference between an exemption and a standard deduction. But right now, everything's all rolled up into one. Okay. Amanda, does STL Youth Jobs assist students in any way with finding resources for preparing their taxes?
If they ask us, yes, we will assist them in finding resources, but that hasn't really been a question that young people have. Maybe because they're not filing, but if they ask, yeah.
So maybe now that you guys know how to read a W-2, you'll understand that it might be to your advantage to file. And let me just like reiterate one more time that the amounts that you can get back are in box 2 and 17. Generally, there's not a lot of over withholding in the city because it's 1%. It's just a flat amount of your wages. But if you have a number in this box or in box 2, you are able to get a refund, but you cannot generally get a refund of the amounts that are in your Social Security and Medicare unless an employer has made a mistake and over withheld, which can happen. If this number is over 6.2% of this number, you're going to get that. It'll come back on your federal return when you calculate everything out, like the electronic file will. I don't know about if there's a place on when if you were manually filling it out for you to see that. Well, I thought that we were going to be going over today with all of this information, and I know I really zoomed through it very, very quickly. It can be, I just don't want my class to be dull here. I want everyone to be not bored during the process, and I really want you to be empowered to look at your W-2 to know how this is working. And actually, I could spend just a moment on that. So, so if you are, let's do a little exercise in calculating how your check, how you get paid, like what you end up getting at the end of the day in your paycheck versus how much you're being paid. Is there a standard hourly rate that STL Youth Jobs pays, Amanda?
Yeah, so for summer work experience, that's the one of the main job tracks over the summer. They get this summer coming up, they will get paid $12 an hour. I know last summer they made $11.15. And then if any of you are in the career accelerator pathway, which stands for cap, they make $14 an hour.
So Young
Yeah.
Money Management made 14.
What?
So Young Money Management made 14. Ain't that cap?
Yes.
Didn't
It's
they
not
make
cap.
14
They're
last year?
separate, but they still make 14.
Didn't they make that last year?
No, I don't know. I don't remember what they made. I think it might have been $12.50 last year.
Mm.
Yeah, everything went up because minimum wage increased, so I'm sure it's increased for everybody. So are there a normal number of work hours that people work?
Yeah, so every week they can work up to 25 hours a week. So it really depends on the person and what they can make work, but we say no more than 25
And
hours a
that's
week.
for both of the programs?
I don't know about CAP. I think they might be up to 30 hours a week.
Let's just pretend they are. But
sure.
we don't know for sure, guys, for our example, okay?
Yeah.
All right. So do they generally get paid every 2 weeks or
Bi-weekly. Yep.
bi-weekly? Okay. So if you had 2 weeks, and let's say we're going to have rate and we're going to have hours worked for the week in my columns here. All right. So we're going to have a summer example, and we will also have a cap example. Okay. And I'm going to kind of build out my spreadsheet a little bit here. Well, this is also known as Social Security, but we call it FICA for some reason. I guess it's some acronym of what the actual program is. Medicare, Missouri, STL, and net pay. Now, I'm going to put some formulas in here because that's going to make my job easier. And it's also just driving home these rates that are here. All right. So for the summer youth rate, it's $12 an hour. For the cap rate, it's 14. And let's say that you worked 20 hours, okay, per week. Well, we're going to do that twice. Okay, so that's 40 hours. And your gross pay is going to be $480. If you properly fill out your W-4, the amounts that are going to be in these are going to be zero because you are assuming that I'm assuming everybody's exempt here. I'm going to put a 1% here. All right. Now I'm going to build a little. This way I'm going to be able to cut. So we're taking whatever the gross pay is times the rate. And remember, I told you this rate, I told you that it's a 1% rate. And I'm sure that there's an easier way to do this, but I'm just going to create my own formula, subtracting all of these amounts. So in the end, although you made $480 at your work, your check is going to be for $438.48. And when you get your W-2, you would, at the end of the year, if everything was exempt, show zero in, I'm just going to pull this up a little bit, this box and this box, and you would have 1% here and the 6.2 and 1.45% there. Okay. In this example, let's say they worked a little bit more. Let's say it was 25 hours a week. And now I want to just do this. So instead of 700, you would get 639.45. So that's how your W-4s interact with what your net pay is, and also how to calculate the difference between what you are making per hour and what you actually get to take home per hour.
I have a question.
Yes.
With the increase in interest, how would this affect like our pay?
The increased interest. Could you say it a little bit different way?
Okay. Because inflation is so high, the Federal Reserves, I think, are going to increase interest to make people like save money instead of like spending it. So how would that affect our paychecks?
Well, I don't know exactly. I mean, basically, it means that the money that you're getting at the end of the day will buy less when there's inflation because everything costs more. And that's a huge bummer. So hopefully pay will continue to rise if there is inflation. But if we go to the income tax form, in fact, if you have interest, if you're earning interest, if you have money in a savings account and you're earning interest, you're going to have to add that to your tax return. As long as you stay underneath the $12,000, the 12,550 number, you don't have to worry, you're not going to pay tax on it. But I do want to bring up that saving your money in regular savings, you have to pay tax on the earnings if you owe tax. But the increased interest rate is helpful to make to help your money grow, which you need to have it happen. And the question is, can you get earnings of interest that are at least as much as inflation is? But these are complicated questions and complicated matters. We're going to talk. Oh, go ahead, Kalia.
I was gonna say if you say you filled out everything but you forgot to like turn it in before the deadline, what would happen?
Well, if you don't owe any tax, you can still turn in your form even though it's late, and you will get your refunds. And that works for 3 years after the due date. So, so right now, the open years are 19, 20, and 21. And actually, 18 is kind of still open because 21 filing season hasn't completely ended. So like the 18 tax returns were due April of 19. 19 was due April of 20. No, I'm wrong. It's 22 now. So 19, 20, 21 are your open years. You could go as far back as 19 and get your refunds. If you owe tax, the years don't close. They're still open because the IRS has forever in order to collect the money if they send you a notice, so to speak. And what happens if you don't file on time and you owe is that you can be charged and probably will be charged penalties and interest for late filing.
So would they add more money on to the money you owe?
If you owe, they will add more money on. Yes.
Okay.
And just so all of you guys are aware, the IRS will allow you to set up a payment plan to pay back taxes. If you are unable to pay, you should file your returns. Even if you owe money and you can't pay, you want to file, because late payment penalties and late filing penalties, they add together. So if you file on time and then you don't have the late filing penalty, you only have the late payment penalty. And by creating that payment plan, the IRS is not going to come after you, like bother you as much, because you are making an effort to pay your taxes. And when you make a payment plan, if you ever have to do that, it's really important that you figure out how to make sure your withholding's adequate so that you're not getting farther and farther underneath with your taxes. Instead, you're staying caught up now in order to pay, well, in order to get the back taxes paid off. These are very good questions, by the way. Well, that's what I've got. And I know that at least Janae had a question wanted to talk to Seda about her experience at UMSL, and I'm happy to surrender the time for you guys to be able to talk STL youth jobs rather than taxes, if you prefer.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And thank you,
I'm gonna
Elizabeth.
share-
This was a very helpful information. I personally, sorry to interrupt Amanda, but I personally learned a little bit more. My husband usually does take care of our taxes, so I have a better understanding of it too.
Well, if any of you start your own businesses and you want help, find Amanda and she can find me, and I'll help you
Perfect.
figure it all out for your taxes. Okay. What I love about STL Youth Jobs is the mission of the organization and the work that it is doing. I'm so happy to be able to give of myself to you guys today.
Thank
and
you
I hope
so
to see you
much.
there, okay.
That means a lot. Thank you. So I'm gonna share the survey in the chat so you guys can complete the survey while we have 8 minutes left. And Elizabeth, you can stay on, you can get back to work, you can do whatever you need to do. So yes, I understand that completely.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave, guys. I'll see you all.
Sure.
Anybody who wants to come tomorrow and Friday, we are talking about personal property tax and real estate tax. And this is going to be surrounding the acquisition of the car in the case of a personal property tax, or a home in the case of real estate tax, and the importance of becoming credit worthy and maintaining what your information is related to your credit score, and how student loans can affect your future. If you're deciding to go to college, things that you need to think about. I had a
need to
really
join
good
that
friend
one,
help me with this.
because I'm having a hard time understanding insurance about a car right now. I'm
Okay.
having a hard time understanding. So I need to join it. I think I need to go sign up. I don't know if I signed up.
All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you. See ya.
I got a question for her. I don't know her name.
For
My name's
for
Seda.
Seda,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You
you know what?
said you-
Hold on just one sec. You can stop recording, Amanda.
sure.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So go ahead.
You said, I think you said you went to